All right, hello and welcome to Follow Up Boss Office Hours. My name is Lee Adkins. I'll be your host with the lovely and amazing Paige Orlando. What's up, Paige?
Hey Lee, it's good to see you as always.
Good to see you. Excited to do this. So we're going to be office hours today talking about Follow Up Bosses reporting, which is a really fantastic and powerful tool. And I find that a lot of people either find something new when we go through reporting, um, or sometimes there are things that are new in reporting that we want to make sure you guys are aware of. So, Paige, why don't you first and foremost give a quick intro, tell us a little bit about what you do at Follow Up Boss, any relevant history before that, and then we'll dig into reporting.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been with Fault Boss for about 3.5 years now. I am one of the managers of our success team. So I lead a team of about, I think there's 7 of them that work with predominantly our Zillow Flex users. We have grown, our CSN team has like doubled in size in the last 6 months, which has been really fun and exciting. And prior to working at Fault Boss, I was actually a director of operations, marketing, name the hat, we did it, but for a real estate team for about 4 years. So I've been in the industry for almost 9 years now
Wow.
and involved with Fault Boss either as a client or as an employee. So it's a product that has been really fun to watch evolve, but also see the success directly with a team, but then also like being able to expand that with other teams. So reporting is always near and dear to my heart because how do you know that you're successful if we don't have reports and we can't like dial into what's working and what's not? So I know you and I have done several different types of reports live and on these particular things. And it's always fun to dive in these because we can find those really great nuggets of value. But additionally, like if you're a solo user, or even if you're a team lead, like this is where accountability comes in. This is where coaching comes in. And you can either use this to reflect individually or use this to guide and lead. So this is really one that can really encompass like regardless of how you're using Follow Up Boss, like reporting really truly matters. And that's the heartbeat of what your day-to-day workflow looks like.
Absolutely. I love that. Very, very well said. And I think, it is super important to, um, use these, whether they're leading or lagging indicators, but to be able to look at things and understand, again, like you said, even as a solo agent, hey, how many calls did I make yesterday? How many of those turned into appointments? Things like that. As well as finding opportunities, which we'll certainly cover in the database. There's ways to find leads that have never been contacted or things like that. So yeah, let's dive right in. Paige, if you want to share your screen, um, we'll just rock right into the big old reporting tab in Follow Boss.
Do it. I mean, and one thing to like circle back with this is we talk a lot about smart lists on different webinars, and we're not going to dive into that today because we want to like work into our webinar. But if you're working your smart lists and you have those collections, which Lee, you and I kind of briefly touched on, maybe even focusing on this moving forward. And so there will probably be other office hours like really dialing into that, but knowing exactly who to call and when with your collections of these are my proactive lists, these are my reactive lists, monitoring activity on my other sites or my other integrations, and you're having that activity, that's what brings reporting to life. Like if you're not working through this piece here, our reporting's not going to do anything for you. Keep in mind, we are in a demo account today. But so there's not a ton of numbers, not a ton of metrics, but enough to be able to show you kind of exactly what we're talking through. But it all starts here. It starts with day-to-day calling and texting, reaching out and communicating via Follow Up Boss so that when we jump into our reporting tab, this again, it all comes to life. This is that source of truth. So now we have full records and organization of what's happening with our clients. But now additionally, we can get full records and analyzing our business too. So you get that double benefit, I guess is the better word for
Right.
it. That double benefit of, okay, all my business is here, but now also I can use this to reflect on myself or to bring it to my coach and see what's working for me, what's not. And one of my favorite ones, just to jump straight in, is that agent activity report. This is that surface level. First of all, like, what are we doing in here? Are we even active in here? Again, this is a demo account, so
Yeah,
no.
let's jump it, Paige. If you don't mind, let's jump it to all time because there's some stats.
Okay, okay.
They're old.
Perfect. Yeah, so nobody's been active in this one this month,
Been
but
a minute.
we're all in trouble over here. No, I'm just teasing. But when we're looking at the all time, and so to kind of circle back and emphasize, we just kind of glazed over that. You can change the metric of how granular do you want to look? Are we looking at this on a weekly basis, a monthly basis? I would recommend at least weekly, but to each his own. But when we're looking at that all time, just so that we've got their numbers, you can really dial into those particular timeframes. But additionally, you can also dial into the type of leads that you have. So when we're looking at web generated leads, if you're using like an IDX website, or if you're realtor.com or Zillow or any of those other lead sources, you can segment that out. Additionally, manual leads. So when you're working at dialing in with like your sphere of influence or somebody that's referred to you directly, you can toggle back and forth or envelop them all. So you can really take these reports and dial into exactly what you want to see. And
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'd love to add two quick things to that. So one thing about web leads, the way I like to look at it, web leads are essentially defined as leads that come through lead flow. Like if they have a lead flow, they're web leads. So whatever sources you're paying for that have a lead flow and follow boss, those are web leads. Manual would be a manual entry or an import or something that does not come through lead flow. So again, to Paige's point, if you only want to see leads that came through lead flow, which maybe are your team leads or even just your own individual leads, being on web leads here is great because you're only looking at data tied to that. If you only want to see, to your point, Paige, like a sphere or an imported list, you can easily do that separately, or as you should also showed, all. But it's important to know what you're looking at. So I didn't want to skip through that too quickly, and then I'll give my other big plug and let you keep trucking. Um, as you change those levers, the URL changes at the top, and so you can bookmark that or permalink that, and it'll bring you right back to this exact settings, exact page. Because to Paige's earlier point, I love to look at this weekly and I like to look at it 7 days back. Because I'm always looking at the same thing. If you look at it one time at 7 days and one time at 30 days, then like it's not apples to apples. So using it as a permalink, you can either bookmark or put into a site or put in a Slack with a bot every 2 hours and say, check how many calls have you made today?
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I love that we always talk about that URL changing, because I think that that's like one of those hidden gems that not everybody pays attention to, but it saves like those valuable seconds from having to come in and kind of like what we talk about with smart lists, rather than having to filter every single day. This is already filtered in the perspective that you want to use. So to your point, like as a solo, like the time frame, I like to only look at web leads and I like to go back 7 days. But if you're a team lead, additionally here, you could do this for your individual agent. So we're going to just see like what Bridget has been up to. Her URL is unique. And then when we're having our one-on-one, we can just go to Bridget's URL and look at that and view just her centralized activity rather than it being for the whole team. So if you're looking at like your team as an individual or as a whole, this is a great perspective. But it also, if we're doing those one-on-ones, which if you're not, you should be, we're doing those one-on-ones, bookmark these, and it saves you a lot of time and it gives a lot of transparency for them too.
And they should, to be honest with you, I don't know that I've actually done this, but there's a 99.99% chance that URL would still work for that agent at least, because the agent can only see their own link.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, the link taking them to that would also work, meaning it could be a link you send to the agent as well. You should still have a one-on-one, but in preparation for your one-on-one, here's your stats from last week in case you want to make some calls today.
Right. In case you want to make some calls today.
Just say, I've done this before. Like you, I've done this before.
I would imagine that it should. I don't 100% know. We could certainly check.
I'll check in that because I would need to know, but it's essentially the same URL. Point being, agents can only see their own leads. So if you were to share a link, it would work for the whole team. They would only see their own stats. So back to kind of the permalink concept of, hey, has everybody made their calls? Where are we at with this? And we'll get into leaderboard in a minute. And now I'll let you move on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, you know how we are with reportingly. It's always a good. Like there's so much here that we can dig into if we're just having that activity inside Follow Boss. But like when we're looking at this agent activity report, like again, we're getting those filters out. We know exactly what we're looking at, what we're reviewing. And now we can see at a very top of funnel, top level of what are we doing? Like this is going to allow us to dig into further reports. And so this is not the end all be all only report you should look at. We'll look at a few others like moving forward, but I always like to start here because in general, again, I'm just picking on Bridget today, but if we're sitting down with Bridget and there is no activity in here, like that's the first conversation. Like, You doing okay? Or have you been out? Like, are we logging in on our cell phone? Is it educational? Is there resistance? Like those questions, that discovery can really happen because right now we're seeing how many calls Bridget made, how many emails, how many text messages are going through, and in turn, how many appointments. And one thing I like to highlight here, because there can be some like confusion on that, is you can hover over in Follow Up Boss the definition of what's in this column. So we get this question a lot, like appointments set versus appointments. And if you hover over, like it gives you the explanation of these are how many appointments I set during this time frame that I have up here. Additionally, the appointments here are the appointments that are going to happen during that time frame that you have up here. So again, if something doesn't feel quite clear or anything like that, of course, you can always reach out to support or your CSM, but we try to drop a little bit of like nuggets everywhere you can to like self-explore. So hover over those and get those definitions. You need additional clarity. We got you. But going back to picking on Bridget, like we talk about this a lot, but these numbers that are in blue are clickable. So, okay, Bridget has made 20 calls over the course of time. We click that, it's going to bring you to all of the people that she's made 20 calls to. And that's where we can start to dive in to what's working for us and what's not. We've made 20 calls to 7 people. How often are we communicating with them? How long are these calls lasting? So that's going to be another report we look at. But you can click through and very easily say, we know exactly who you've called, when you've called them. So rather than spending 20 minutes trying to figure that out and her bringing a piece of paper or post-it or something like that, we can dive into the quality rather than spending all of this time on what are you doing? So is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I love that. I think it's very well said. And again, this is literally just the first tab, and there's still stuff within this. But if you do nothing, or if you're not familiar with this, just starting to look at this, and we said this at the top, but I just really need to say it again. Even if it's just you, like the numbers don't lie. It's helpful to see it. I used to always say, when I started having a monthly P&L generated by an accountant, I looked at it a lot differently than when I was doing the numbers myself or pressing a button to print a P&L. I get one from somebody else. There's more gravity to that. And I think same thing. Like you're like, I made like 20 calls last week, and you log in here and you're like, well, maybe it was 12, and maybe 2 of those one was a wrong number and somebody didn't answer. So again, just using this to be real, set goals, measure what you're doing. That goal could be as simple as um, having a conversation with 3 people, and it doesn't have to be crazy. But again, this is definitely the place to start if you're just starting to dig into reporting. And let's show while we're still on this page, the drop down part. I don't know that we need to go deep into each one, but like this is another kind of hidden gem that I think people don't always see in all the levers that can be moved around here.
Yeah, so this drop down here kind of will give you some other segmented type reports. Like this initial total agent activity and total lead count is my favorite place to start for a one-on-one. But we know speed to lead matters. We know that we've probably set expectations either for ourselves as solos or for our team on, I expect you to act on a lead in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or, whatever feels right for you all. Or how quickly are we doing that? Like how many have come in that we're not even communicating with? Again, that surfaces opportunities for education on using Follow Up Boss because maybe they did act on it, but it didn't happen in Follow Up Boss. So, we assume that means it didn't happen at all. And again, like you said, we don't have to dive too deep in on these, but there's ways to really like dive into like what is most important or what is a person like struggling with. Like I'm not really struggling with making my calls, but I am struggling with acting quickly on new leads. And so each one of these reports has some other further segmented ones in there. But additionally, you can really kind of modify these as well. Like these columns that we're talking about, like here in the middle, if notes are not important to you, like we can uncheck that and not make it reflective here. And that's where that URL piece that you were talking about, Lee, comes in. Dial into those particular activities that make the most sense. Like, I don't care how many notes you've made. I want to know how many calls you're making. Take it off. Like, so we can really like manipulate this to dive into what we need visibility for.
Yeah, for sure. Love that. That's so good. And just the first page.
It's just the first page. Like, so this is like, I like to go in a progression piece. Like if we're sitting down with a one-on-one, or if I've got a team lead that's like, hey, can you tell me how my team's doing? Well, this is what we're going to do. Let's look at their activity. Okay. I see everybody is logged in or is logging in, and in this particular time, Rosario here is not making any calls. What's going on? What's going on with Rosario? And that pulls out some information from a team lead as well to be able to reflect. Oh, well, Rosario does it, that's just our TC. They don't do that kind of stuff. Cool. Then we can glaze over that. But Rosario is one of our agents that should be making calls, and there aren't any. Then that surfaces our opportunity for conversation. But we also know, like, again, I'm picking on poor Bridget today, but Bridget, like, she's made 20 calls. Well, now we now know that there's activity here, but we need to dive into quality. So this calls report is my favorite one to go to from that top of funnel activity, because we can segment out. And again, you can hover over and get some definitions with these little question marks about how long your talk time is. If you're using your follow-up boss number the way you should, we can tell if you're just logging it manually or if it was just a quick attempt, if you connected for longer than a minute. So think maybe a pretty valuable voicemail, or additionally a conversation. And typically this column right here is where you're going to find the meat and potatoes of your quality. And again, these numbers are clickable. So we can go and pick on Bridget that we've had these 3 people, and our calls and texts and transcripts, when you have calling in here, you're able to, and this may be, we've turned it off in the demo, but it logs it, tracks it, but it also records it. You get the AI call transcripts and summaries. And, we've also got like smart summaries coming. So it's analyzing the entire account. And I'm saying a lot of words here right now, I know, but like when we're coming in, we can easily find those that we've had a true conversation with. So we see this was in July of last year. Let's listen to it together. Did your tone of voice sound friendly? Did you handle that objection well? And so like, why didn't we convert it? Or in turn, we did convert it, and how can we continue to scale this? And
Right.
that just gives you the perspective of diving into growth rather than just, well, I'm working today, but I don't have any contracts. So I don't know what's up.
Yeah, that's so good. I think that's so important. And yeah, obviously a lot of these are fake or whatever. There are a few real ones in here, but yeah, it doesn't have the talk time when you manually log a call, obviously. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. And Paige, do you want to show, I know this isn't technically on topic. Do you want to show at the top how you can also filter just below on calls or notes or whatever right in the timeline? So
Yeah,
if
that's
you're looking for calls specifically, you can go, like right now we're seeing everything, but you can go right to calls.
Yeah, that's a great call out. So, here in the success team, we call this piece here your communication station. That's where you're logging things, that's where you're texting and calling and all of those. But as you use this communication station, this thread grows and everything is automatically filtering right here. And if you're in Follow Up Boss Daily, chances are they get pretty long and pretty lengthy. And so if you're doing something from the calls report, we actually have tabs here to be able to segment out that level of importance. So if we're trying to find some calls to listen to, these tabs here will bring you to just the calls in that thread rather than the full historical information. And we can also like star them right here. Like, hey, this was a really great call that we had. We're going to pull that up from the report, but now I've pinned the one that I want to have some coaching on. I've pinned the one that I want to share with you that has worked really well for me. And so those will also have that extra level of just like being able to be surfaced a lot better.
Love that. That's a great idea.
You want to pop back over to that calls report?
Yeah, I think so. And because we can at least go, well, and the talk time obviously is super important and valuable there, I think. Can you
Mhm.
sort by that? I can't remember. I feel like maybe you can click on the header, but I can't recall. Okay,
Yeah.
so you can sort also. So again, super handy to be able to just see, hey, who has logged the most time? Again, what are your metrics? If you want to measure like quantity of calls, perfect. What we just showed you, if you want to measure quality of calls more so, going through actually listening to them or reading the transcripts. But so much you can do here, but I love the other drop down here. I think that's maybe my favorite, especially for like big team.
All logs on.
There's like all the calls ever, team inbox, company number, your direct inbox, in outbound, missed calls. It's all right here.
And this will show you, and we won't get into team inboxes today, but if you've got like marketing inboxes and they're coming in from different numbers, it will also give you a little bit of a reflection of how many calls are coming into that particular inbox. Are they coming to you directly? Are they coming in off of a really great billboard or a really great like call to action on the radio station, or, you know, whatever the case may be there. But this will also show you duration. And if there is a duration, you're able to get to it and play it back and listen to those things. So this is another really great drop down. And to circle back with what you were saying about like, what are your metrics? What are your KPIs? Like when we know what activity we should be doing, there's clarity there. And
Right.
that's a really good, like, when we have clarity, we can then dive into like success. And if you're filtering, going back to that other drop down, if you're filtering by total talk time, you know, Lee, you've been on the phone total for 38 minutes in this account, but you know, it makes sense because you're converting more than anybody else in this account, and being able to have that little bit of competitive nature. And then also additionally, like, you know, Caroline has made a lot of phone calls, but her talk time's not great. So should we dive into her scripting? Should we get her a better list of people to call? Is she getting enough leads? And so we've got the clarity now, and we can dive into troubleshooting, roadblockers, anything like that.
Totally. I love that. And you mentioned the call summaries. I think if you want to go to, if you want to type in Chris, Kris in the search, we can go. I think I feel like that's a good relevant, maybe teaser if nothing else. Oh, it wasn't on for this. My error. At least it's got the regular call summary and transcript.
Mm,
But
hmm.
smart summaries are coming soon and you'll all love them. We were going to mention it here, but I just realized I don't think I have it on in this account. I thought I did.
Let's use it.
I
So
put it in my own account so I could use it. Sorry.
right now, well, we're not going to pop into your personal account.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
get
not a
to
thing.
use it. So everybody is getting the summaries of what happened and the transcripts of what's going on in that conversation. So you don't have to type in a bunch of notes. It's even going to suggest some action items for you that you can hit the blue plus sign and create yourself a task reminder of promises that the AI has picked up on that conversation. And so this is individualized for each phone call. But teasing that smart summaries that's coming, you'll see that up here. Some of you may have it in beta. If not, it'll be here very soon. And that's a summary of the entire account, like text messages, phone calls, activity, things that have been viewed. And it also suggests tasks, and it gives you suggestions of maybe what this conversation with Chris should look like next when we're being proactive. So we've got that granular piece here. And now you're about to get like a full on surface level, like what's happening with Smart Summary. So that's really exciting thing to come. And I'm sure we'll have an office hours on it when it.
Yes, indeed. Awesome. I didn't mean to derail that, but I felt like it was relevant. And you had mentioned it
It
too. So,
is.
all right.
It is. It's something we're all excited about. But again, like that activity that we're starting with
Right.
brings all of this to
Right.
life and
You have
gives.
to feed it. You have to, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? If you put good stuff in and log your calls and make notes and pay attention to things, then you're going to get great intel here. And that intel is going to help you do the other part better if you pay attention to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we've got a couple of other reports that we want to surface, but since we're kind of like just talking activity and success and conversion and things, I do want to pop over to the leaderboard if you're good
Yes.
with that. And we assign points based on you doing what you're supposed to do. I mean, that's the point blank of it. And they're weighted based on whether or not, like, what's going to get you closest to a contract, what's going to convert more for you. And so if you want to know what those points are, again, you can hover over, we give you a little bit of nudges and kind of try to create some clarity around that for you. And the more activity that you have, the more points that you have. So again, we can kind of surface through and remove, like maybe Rosario is our ISA and doesn't really is not really relevant on this leaderboard. You can hide those people and do the same thing that we were talking about on our other reports, like segment out on the time frame that you're running a small competition on or something like that, or just in a general, who is got that activity happening. We don't use this piece directly with our KPIs on the success team, but we all use this piece internally to like compete with each other, which is
Yeah.
really fun. So I mean, like we practice what we preach over here. Like there are different ways to have metrics and things. And some of my colleagues, I'm like, man, I have to go and make 2 more phone calls because you're ahead of me on the leaderboard today. That drives a lot of great ambition. And it's a great visual to use, like have it up on the conference room TV or just have it posted, save that URL and kick it out everywhere because we're all competitive by nature. And we want to see how we are measuring up to our colleagues, and that drives us. And so I like to look at this daily with my team, and my team is always teasing each other about that sort of thing. So the activity leaderboard specifically is also reflective of what you're looking at in the agent activity and the calls report. So it's just another great visual there.
Yeah,
And
that's a great point. I like you linking those together because it's all sort of the same data, but you're viewing it or thinking about it in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody that's sending thousands and thousands of emails, but not setting any appointments. Are your emails really like converting? Are they doing those particular things? Again, it's just another way to really dive into what's working for us.
Yeah, and we're not even going to get into this today, but I think you and I did somewhat recently, previously, um, a little like even the individual email and text templates have their own reporting to dial into, is this email doing anything, or are we just sending a bunch of emails to check a
Mhm.
box? So we're not going there today. But there's lots of little pieces of reporting. But I think, the point usually with these pages, to help people understand some of the options that they can do. We're not even suggesting you should do all of these. Like all of these may not even make sense for you. But just to be able to pick up a little piece, or hey, I didn't realize that button was there, or hey, if I drop this down, it does this, or cool, I can export this into Google Data Studio, like whatever any and all of that is. Yeah, we just like to go over it because frankly, sometimes even I forget. Like we log in the screen, I'm like, oh right, you can do that now.
Yeah, I mean, truly, I mean, we discover things on these office hours all the time. Like,
Right.
can
Like,
we do?
do you do that?
So
Does that work?
the good news with that is, other than like deleting your entire account, which I'm not even going to show you how to do that, you really can't break it. We can
Right.
help you fix it. We can't like retroactively fix things that have been fully deleted, but if there's something that's like not working right, like we can help troubleshoot that and we can help air. So click around, play with it. That's how we learn and how we discover new things. And our product Slack channel is like lighting on fire these days with the amount of releases that are here. So we'll hop into accounts and find something that's new and exciting, and let's play with it. Let's see how it's working for us and how we can incorporate it. But to circle back with like what you said, we could probably do this reporting webinar all afternoon because
Right.
there's so many different nuggets with,
Right.
but you can, like you mentioned, with our email templates and with our text templates, which that may take us to our text reporting here as well. Like what's being opened, what's being clicked through, what's being replied to. And this is also protecting like your integrity of your email address and your integrity of your phone number with carriers so that you're not getting marked as spam, which that might be another great office hours to talk with too.
Yes.
But
Look at
looking
it.
at like, if you have a template that's saying stop over and over and over, you're not converting with it. You're harming the integrity of your phone number, and maybe we should change that up and get a different one. And so using those small type of reports allows us to get very granular because again, all of our activity is here. We see activity is working. We see that calls are happening. We see that appointments are happening. Now, like, where are the holes? Where are the things that we're struggling with? But I love those little pieces, and I like to bring those up on calls with agents as well, because texting has been such a big conversation this year with
Right.
that laws are changing and with the way that what compliance looks like and what carriers really expect, which takes us to our text report. Unless
Yes. Which also, again, there's not a lot of texting in the demo, but here we are.
here we are. Well, we're staying compliant, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, mine's excellent at least.
Right, right. And this
'Cause I
one,
used it twice.
absolutely once a week. If you're not doing
Yeah.
one-on-one once a week, if bi-monthly or bi-weekly for you makes more sense, like fine. But this one, minimum once a week because it's
Yeah.
a lot of conversation around this right now.
Yeah. And people, I think, know this, but I also feel like it always still bears saying, like, and you referenced it earlier, Paige, but like, number one, the laws are changing around a lot of this. Um, People having to opt in, things like that, carriers filtering either certain numbers or certain words or things like that. So yeah, this is super important. Something else I want to mention that's always been interesting to me, something about this report, like if the number of text sent is low, even if the quality of the text is good, you can sometimes even still have a good or lower delivery rate here just because there's not a lot of history or reputation to that number. Um, This is super, 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 super important. I mean, I think to your point, Paige, at least because the other thing that'll happen, which was my point I distracted myself from, is that if you get too low on that score, you'll get an actual warning first from follow up boss, and then either the number's just not going to work, or like you protecting this reputation is super, super, super important. Um, and again, to what Paige said earlier, are people doing stuff? Are people sending texts? Like what's happening? Are people replying to them? Are they using templates so we can check that? But really, the opt-outs and carrier filtered here are that's what you want to pay attention to and be really careful with.
Yeah, this one also really surfaces a lot of conversation around who are we, like, are we texting the right people? Because like you mentioned, if we have a lot of opt-outs or a lot of filters or even like errors, meaning we're not paying attention to the numbers that we're texting and it's potentially invalid or disconnected, and it's not marked correctly here, all of that is tied to your follow-up boss phone number. And that's not like a FUB thing. That's like a carrier law thing. And I'm not communication, so I'm not gonna get fully into that. But we've got some ways of like around like making sure that you're successfully reaching those that want to hear from you. But if you've got an ISA and they've sent out 1,000 text messages and the delivery rate is low, there's a lot of opt-outs, there's a lot of errors, they're using a template that nobody's replying to, well, this might not be a group of people that is texting is serving us. So when we can see that, we can now segment into our audience of who should we be texting? Are we getting engagement? Are we reaching out to those? So not only do we want to protect ourselves from all of the laws and make sure that we're in compliance with and use that number with integrity, but it also will give us insight to finding those diamonds in our database that we talk about. Like, who should we actually be texting? If they're 6 months old and they've not engaged, they're out of compliance, they're out of, opt-in anyway. And we shouldn't be texting those people. We should be trying to get them engaged in other ways. So
Definitely well said. But yeah, this is super important. I think this is as much as I think the agent activity is the one, like if you're really only going to do one thing, it's probably this.
that's a really good point. Like, if when we're looking from like an agent coaching growth perspective, agent activity is a great place to start. When we're talking about like diving into the nitty-gritty of like, are we converting? What is going well? This is a great one to start too as well. So the calls report with that, conversations that are being had, but then additionally all those text messages. And again, like when we hover over, you can see the definition of each one of these columns and what that means and how that metric is being pulled in. And to circle back, you mentioned we do send out compliance emails from our communications team if the delivery rate is really low. And that's not like an intention to be like, oh, you're in trouble sort of thing. It's to keep that awareness and to keep that conversation fluid of making sure that you are reaching the right people at the right time and making sure that your phone number is got that integrity that you want. You don't want that phone number to be flagged as spam because nobody's going to answer your phone. And then you're pulling in all these leads, you're spending all this information, all this money on, and we can't connect with them. So yeah, we want to monitor this one for sure. And if
So
you're
let's truck through let's hit let's do properties. I'd love to talk about properties because I'm a big fan of this, and I think again, either a lot of people don't know about this or aren't utilizing it. Again, this is a demo account, so it just has some fake inquiries that I made. But you can see it's got, show me which property has the most inquiries as the drop down. There's a few other options, but I think this is fantastic for something like a listing appointment. Having this is the equivalent of saying, look at all these inquiries I have in my database. You're not going to show them the contacts, but this basically provides, and again, because they're fake, they're across the country, but yours are all going to be in one city, most likely, or wherever you operate. So you could actually, I would screenshot this and put it into a listing presentation and say, look how many inquiries we've had in the last year in your neighborhood or your zip code or your area or your school district or whatever that is. Like, this is a perfect, easy screenshot you could pop in to literally say, I've got buyers in my database that are looking for houses like yours. And you don't have to do anything. You literally just click on reporting properties, screenshot.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely think this is one that's always good to surface on things like this because it is one that isn't talked about a whole lot. And you always speak to this one so well with using this for listing appointments. So, I mean, again, we've talked a lot about like accountability and activity and what we're doing, but you have valuable information about your clients and what they're interested in and what they like to see. And so not only is that going to serve you for being able to meet that particular inquiry where they're at, but now you can also use this as I've got strategies to bring you a buyer. And so
Totally.
I love talking about this one because
And
it
you can I believe you can reverse prospect through it as well. It'll show you the inquiries. I think if you mouse over them, like if you click it, it'll take you to the people that inquired on that property, and you can say, hey, look, I have another listing right down the street. This one's got a pool. Great. Here's my people that inquired before.
And additionally, too, if this is your listing and you have the inquiries, like here's a great list for you to start prospecting with. Like, let's not be creepy and say, hey, I saw that you were looking at my listing, but you guys have better scripting than that for
Right.
sure. But that information and that insight that you've got right here, like we want this to be like your hub. It's your full source of truth from every possible angle. So I can use this to target and try to find a buyer for my listing specifically, or additionally, I can show you that I deserve your listing because I have buyers that are looking for properties like yours. So that this is more of like that, like you said, the client facing type report that you can use to your advantage to have better results.
Absolutely. So let's do batch emails for sure, because I really want to talk about that.
Yep.
And I think we gotta hit appointments a little bit, and then we'll take it out. I don't want to hurt anybody's brain with all the things.
Not all daily. We can
Or
talk
mine.
about you don't have all day. Yeah. But so looking into, and I mean, again, like I can go down a rabbit hole with reporting and I try very hard with my teams not to overwhelm them with things because there's so many different things we want to get at. And what are your goals and how do we want to how do we want to analyze that? And so just kind of showing you all of your options here and what's going to be critically most important to you. So batch emailing in Follow Up Boss is, kind of like sending out to your database in a bulk. Maybe you've got a new listing that you want to send a property to, or maybe you have a client event and you want to invite all your sphere of influence to show them how much you appreciate them. Send it in bulk. That can be done from the people tab over here. But additionally, we also, just like with our email templates and our text templates, we want to know how they're performing. We want to know if they delivered. So this report here is going to show you all of the different batch emails that you've sent. It's going to show you who was included. Remember, those blue highlighted pieces are numbers that are clickable, take you straight to the list of people that were included. But you can see which ones were like sent, who actually opened through with it, your percentage rate. Like, so again, if we sent over a listing announcement and nobody opened it, we might want to change our subject line next time, or we
Right.
will on those things.
Or you might want to follow up with the people that clicked to view the listing. So,
Mhm.
and Paige, I know this is where it gets sort of complicated for people sometimes because it's a whole system, right? You have to like, well, what am I going to send?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to send this, and you measure what you sent, then you follow up on that. But again, that's kind of the point of having this all-in-one system. I know a lot of people that do this really well and religiously. They send an email consistently, monthly, weekly, whatever, and they literally come in here and click on the people that either clicked or opened and send those people a follow-up email. Now, you don't want to do that like over and over again every week or anything crazy like that. But again, you're narrowing, like all things in real estate. You're taking a big funnel, you're narrowing it down to 20 people that opened it, you're narrowing down to 3 people that clicked on it. Maybe you should call those 3 people and tell them you have an open house, or I have another listing just like that one, or something interesting. But this is how you find that. I think people are really used to smart lists and filtering and all that, which is fantastic. But this is definitely another way to surface opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things, like talking back to that text report that we're talking about, like if we have older leads, and make sure your batch email has a call to action in it in some way, because if you're prompting them back to a website where they can opt in again, this is going to give you that list of those that have re-opted in, and let's text them. Let's see, they're re-engaging. And so this is just a very like subtle, but it's a great trick to re-engage your database. But additionally, like engage those that are also like looking at those particular things. So that click-through rate is always a great one to just get that list of people because they've looked at something and start to use that information from the activity report and the contact profile. And additionally too, because we talk a lot about protecting our integrity of our email address and also with our phone numbers, the unsubscribes and the bounces, you're going to see how many email addresses bounced from that. And you're going to see how many people hit the unsubscribe button because that button is available through there. We by nature, Follow Up Boss will tag those for you. So when you're segmenting out moving forward, you probably want to exclude those. But additionally, you can click those details and you can get the individual email addresses and see exactly what happened. So, okay, the email address was missing from Bridget. So we didn't filter very well on this one, but it did deliver to Darth Vader and he opened it and clicked it.
Yeah, wow. Did you follow up?
It'll give you that individualized insight. So if you know that you're sending all of these to your sphere of influence and you have a bunch of emails that are bounced or things like that, well, maybe we need to call Frank and say, hey, I tried to send you an email, but it looks like maybe that one's not valid anymore. Can I get your updated contact information? I mean, just a really great way for like simple engagement and simple conversation. And that's what we're trying to do, is provide you with that visibility from all of these reports so that you can then open the door to working through it rather than just sending a bunch of stuff out into a black hole and hoping it comes back.
Right. I've been in this with a lot of team leaders. We hop into this report and they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know all my agents were doing this. And it's like, well, number one, you should. And number two, like, look, it's working. So-and-so did this, or so-and-so uploaded 11,000 people and emailed them and got a terrible, bounce rate or whatever. But like, again, this is your insight into your business, whether it's just you or you got 200 agents, running around doing stuff. Super important. So yeah, Paige, I think and we can't skip deals either. I think we got to hit deals and appointments and then wrap it up. I seriously don't want to hurt people, but it'd be silly to have a webinar on reporting and not cover deals and appointments.
I am here. We'll pop over to deals for sure. But also looking at like taking our appointments to our deals, it feels like the natural progression for me, if you're good with that.
Agreed.
Looking at
I like chronological.
Yeah. Chronological is good. And left to right is always good. And I bounce around my crazy brain, but I'm thinking like, okay, my activity, now I set my appointments, now I got my contract, like that we got things. But looking at our appointments report, if you're not logging your appointments in Follow Up Boss, like you're doing yourself a disservice. Number one, your email address is connected and it's going straight over to your Gmail account or your Microsoft account, whichever one that you've got connected there. And it's by default client facing and it's sending those particular things over. Note by default, it is client facing, garage codes, super codes, like all that kind of stuff. Don't put that in there. They're going to see it. Like if we put in here, we've got an appointment, with Marcel and we're like, Marcel seems a little sketchy for us. Maybe we should bring it. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
We talk about that a lot on Teams, but
we talk about it because we have stories of it happening.
McDonald's is marked hot on their coffee cup for a reason. So we're doing that. That's exactly why we speak to that. But this is a really great report again, that when we're talking about these things, like we have these types and outcomes, which are in that contact card and in that appointment. And we can really segment out like, okay, how many listing appointments did you have? And what did we do with that? Let's coach to that. Let's reflect on that. Let's evaluate our listing presentation, all of those things. And so again, just a really great way to look through what outcomes came from those meetings that we've set. So we've logged it here. We've got the client, invited. We've got the reminders going out to combat against those no-shows. And now additionally, we've got even more insight to like, okay, I'm having great conversations. I'm having great appointments, but I'm not securing things, or I am securing a lot. What is working for us? And so this is a great one for that. You can add your appointments directly from here as well, but I personally like to go straight through the contact profile. Did I miss anything on that one?
No, that's perfect. I love that. And I guess the only other thing to add is also a good way to find things that don't have outcomes that you may want to add an agent or say, hey, please update this appointment. So we've got good, listing won, listing lost, waiting until the fall, like all those sort of things. So. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, again, just more insight, like does our listing presentation need new photos?
Right.
Like what's happening?
But to what you said earlier, where are the holes? Is it the leads? Is it the contacting of the leads? Is it what to say with the leads? Is it getting an appointment? Which appointments get to deals? Which deals turn into money? Like, it's really that simple. But there's a lot of little things that can go wrong in all those processes, and this is how you can troubleshoot that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that I love so much about it is if you're just doing these daily habits, we're building these reports for you. It's not like you're having to go in and build them. Like, yes,
Right.
them and filter them and get those URLs bookmarked, but this is not something that you as like an admin have to go in and build. It's just coming to life because that activity is there. So when we preach like activity and day to day, like I can't have any visibility if your pieces aren't there. So it all like comes in this full circle here, which then in turn takes us over to our deals report. And we've done all this activity. We're analyzing our appointments, we're scripting, we're coaching. What's going on in our pipeline for the year? What's our goal? And are we on track for that? And additionally, just like with everything else, segment it out on your buyers and sellers with the pipelines that you have created in your deals tab. And you can also segment it out based on agent or the team as a whole if you're a coach and a lead. And it will give you like all of those custom stages that you've built in your deals tab, how many are in that particular piece and in that particular time frame. And so we've got a lot of really great pieces here. And again, toggling back and forth from buyers or sellers. If you're a big team and you like to do recruiting, I have some teams that use this report as well, carrying people through to joining as well.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I want to mention, because this has always confused me, and I think I finally got it in my brain. Um, the segment below the things with the lines with the colors, is that setting is separate. You see the all-time setting just for
Uh-huh.
that segment.
Uh-huh.
That is kind of its own thing. It's not wholly tied to the part above it. Like the part above it can have a different time frame, I believe. So it can be confusing because you could see
Yeah.
like your next 3 months in the top part, but then the part below that might be showing all time or this year, which is good and on purpose. But for the longest time, I was like, how do we have 20 deals here and 80 deals here? Because they're technically separate sections. So I always want to mention that because it tripped me up for years.
Yeah, that's a really good call out. And like analyzing some of these reports can get very confusing, which is where, our support team can help. And if you are a team and you're working with a success manager, we can kind of like analyze that data as well. But a lot of times it's just like what we're doing right now. We're just poking around in a follow-up boss
Right.
account.
Oh, look at that.
But like to your point, like these little drop downs can be reflective of something a little bit more granular than this, like again, top of funnel analysis. So if we're looking more like, I don't really care about volume, I'm caring about the commission total that we have versus like the price total. So like, are we negotiating our percentages or should we not be, or, whatever your SOP is there, but like commission total and the average price. And so these charts will show you in that course of time, what are you comparing to against what? But like you said, not directly related with what's here in that top ribbon.
Yeah, for many years I was like, these don't add up. And somebody was like, they're separate. And I was like, that makes good sense.
I
That's why
mean,
it's in its own box.
even now I'll get some questions and it'll take me a hot minute to be like, okay,
Yeah.
what am I looking at here? But it's there for you to study. And that's the beauty of it, is having that ability to study. And again, if there's ever like confusion or clarity, like we're here to help and we're here to work through that. But looking at that pipeline, I have a lot of people that love to just look at their deals tab and look at it from this perspective. When you're talking buyers, sellers, referrals. But that report here is also just really great to tile into, like, I'm just going to meet with poor Bridget. I'm just picking on her today.
It's all right. She's done pretty well.
I just want to see what's going on with her. And we're going to look at her deals. And as, a team lead, you have access to being able to see everybody's things and everybody's focus. And so this is a really great way to put into like, okay, you're on track for your commission goal, which I don't know if we're going to get to that one today, but your agent goals that you have put in here,
Yeah.
that pipeline, when you have your commission in here, will be reflective of that agent goal. And are we on track? Are we off track? It all dials into quantity, quality, and success. There's so many of these reports that I just
I
love.
know. It's so funny. And every page has like 20 different settings and things that you can change to get into that. But, as always, our goal is to either refresh you on this, maybe bring something that's either a new feature or something you didn't know about. And I think, as always, this isn't about mastering reporting tomorrow. This is more about like understanding what you can do, where it might be relevant to your business. And Paige, I know you work with a lot of teams, in scenarios like this. Like, what's your advice for somebody who maybe is either newer to this or maybe kind of knows about it but hasn't really leveraged it yet? Like, how do you start if you're not really doing this much yet?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you mentioned, like this is an elephant and we need to handle this one bite at a time. And so when we get started, I wouldn't expect you to be in every single one of these reports, have a full analysis and have a full piece. It starts back to, like we teased in the beginning, like it starts back to knowing that our activity is happening here with our smart lists and with our collections, the new way to organize proactive, reactive, and those particular things. So we know exactly how we're supposed to action each one of those lists. And then starting to analyze like what that activity is doing. Because if we are new to Follow Up Boss, we don't have any activity in here. We don't have any information. We don't quite know. And so we can't really get into our deals just yet or our appointments just yet. So it all starts with like that baby step of foundationally operating inside Follow Up Boss every single day and then watching this come to life. So if you're transitioning into Follow Up Boss, it's going to take you, a little bit of time because we've got to get that activity so that those metrics are evolving for you. But if we're getting started, I always say start with activity, because activity is going to give us the perspective of our results. What are your thoughts there? Like if you're coaching your teams, what would you say?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think, loosely speaking, what you said, like left to right is a good way to start. But agent activity is for sure, I think, the easiest way to really get the highest level view, especially on, again, the inbound lead and conversion process. Again, each of these are different parts of the funnel, like we just said. So whether it's you have a hunch that you're weaker in this area or whether you just want definitive numbers on that, I think, agent activity is definitely, the place to start. And then, like we said, beyond that, I think the text reporting is just a protect your reputation proactively.
Mhm.
So again, if I was on an island with two follow boss reporting features, I guess it'd be agent activity and text.
Yeah, totally. And I agree with you there, because we're talking about like if we're getting started inside Follow Up Boss, like what do I do? Well, you need to know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And then when that activity comes, like that's how we can start to dive in and see what's working for us and
Right.
what.
Right. You got to do it before you can measure it. So begin at the beginning.
I love that. Yeah, you got to do it before you can measure it, truly. And the first thing that we can measure is your activity, and that's going to bring in all of those other pieces. I'm going to steal that from you on my next.
All right, perfect. We are recording. So,
All
and
right.
that said, we'll send the recording out to everybody that's on. Thank you guys for being on. Paige, you want to take us through the question mark super fast and then maybe give some motivational words and we'll wrap this thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Gotta
So
look at the question mark. It wouldn't be office hours.
yeah, it wouldn't be, I would not ever end a call without this. I like to remind you, even if you've seen it a million times, but I'm a manager of our success team, but we also have a large support team. And so if you're a team and you are working with a success manager, this question mark is where you can connect with them. But additionally, you also have access to all of our resources, all of our support in clicking in this. So whether you're a solo user or whether you're a 200-person account on a platform plan, you have access to this. And so I like to highlight here, our help center is here. This is videos, documentation, screenshots, all of those things. Like if you're a self-starter and you just need to like get a quick Q&A about like what that crazy lady said about batching mailing earlier today, this is a great place to go. Additionally, our Facebook community, Lee is one of our top contributors, so he may even answer your question directly on this particular thing.
Ask away. Tag me in there. I'll do my
Yeah.
best.
Yeah, absolutely. And get those questions answered. We've got a lot of really great moderators on those. So a lot of great ways to like connect with other users, but additionally like get those questions answered. Some better insight. Like how do you guys use the property report? Like how do you guys do these things? So that's a really great plug there. But additionally, like our support team, it has also grown exponentially this year because it is not an AI focused support team. These are real people that lay eyes on your questions and that help you troubleshoot and provide you with education or help you fix things or escalate them if they need to be escalated. And so a couple ways that you can get at that. This is a 7-day-a-week situation. So Saturday or Sunday when you're poking around, real estate never sleeps. You guys are working at open houses and we put a lead in and it acts funny or whatever the case may be. You can call them at this number here. You can email them directly from this perspective. But one thing, pro tip, and I always like to like shout out, we really like the videos. Like, hey, I'm doing this and it looks like this. Why is it weird? That is really helpful for us to help troubleshoot and to walk through things. So you can record a video at what you're working through and what you need help with. It's our goal in the advocacy team to make sure that you feel supported and empowered to use the system. This shouldn't feel hard. And I guess that's kind of like, if we're talking motivation here, like this should not feel hard. We joke around about it being Fisher Price simple. There is a lot of really amazing things that it can and does do, but it shouldn't feel hard to do them. And that's why we have such a large team to provide you with those resources and that support to make sure that it is easy for you to use and for you to all. We don't expect you to be behind a computer and knowing all things tech in this industry, which is why we do things like these office hours and we chat through like how, like, tips and tricks with it, because what you're best at is connecting with people. And so the goal is to give you the tool to connect with people more efficiently. So it ties right into that question mark, really. Like, if you need help, we can get you help. And if you're not quite sure, like, hey, should I go to my success manager or should I go to support? I can't find it in the help center. Just go somewhere and we will get you in the right space.
Yeah.
It's not like we're not going to tell you no, we're going to make sure that you get connected with the right person. And so there's a lot of different channels. The Facebook group will tell you to go to support if you need to go to support. And so we all work together to make sure that you are put in front of who's going to help you the best.
Absolutely. Very well said. That was excellent. Awesome. Paige, thank you so much. Amazing as always.
Always good to see you, Lee. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You guys, thanks for being on, and we'll see you on the next office hours.
Have a good one.